Today's guest is Jonah Evans. Jonah is a writer who has written for Post Trash, for Atwood Magazine, for the Tonearm. Jonah is also a musician and the host of the Spare Notes podcast. Spare Notes is about talking to artists in the music and literary industries about their creations, evolutions, and communities. As someone who doesn't know anything about the literary world, I tried to figure out how does it compare to the DIY music world. We also got into his mixtape, and we did a Philly music bracket because Jonah resides in Philly. As always, if you want to support us, you can do so at tapeclub.substack.com. But for now, go ahead and enjoy my conversation with Jonah. Okay, I've got a writer whose work has appeared in Post Trash, Atwood Magazine, Tonearm Magazine, musician, host of the Spare Notes podcast, Jonah Evans here. Jonah, thank you for doing this. I know you're normally in Philly. Today, you're on the West Coast. This is an early record, but I appreciate you rolling with the punches and jumping in.
Thanks for having me. I like early morning, and it makes me do stuff for the rest of the day, so that's good.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you. I hate an early morning. Spare Notes, right? That's your show. Yeah. It's about talking to artists in the music and literary industries about their creations, inspirations, evolutions, and communities. So what inspired you to start Spare Notes? Because it's a pretty new show.
What inspired me was Bear vs. Shark was coming into town to Philly, in like March or April earlier this year. And like decades ago, I lived in the same neighborhood as them. And, one of the members, Mark, the singer, used to have Wednesday night parties. And so I used to go over there and I saw them play in basement shows and like saw them get signed to Equal Vision, and I just loved their band and went to all their shows when I was like in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, Michigan. And I saw they're on tour, and earlier in the year, I also decided, like at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm going to write more about music on Post Trash because I love music and I want to support indie artists, and I love just getting to discover new music. So I did more of the writing, and then I was like, maybe I could do like an interview, and I was like, I don't know. So I DM'd the boys on the Instagram, and I was like, hey, would you like want to do a interview? Like I could interview you guys when you guys come to play at Union Transfer. And I was like, I can pitch Brooklyn Vegan. I was like, I have a website too, but like I can pitch somewhere else or whatever. And they were like, I think it was John. He was like, oh, we know you, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you could just put it on your website. And then I had to figure out how to put a podcast on my website. And so then I was like looking at different ways to like upload something on my website, and I eventually found like RSS, which feeds to all the other streaming services. And I didn't think about like doing a bunch of them. I was just like, I really wanted to interview them and maybe it'll get published in a magazine. And then I was like, oh, that was nice. That was fun. And they seemed to be happy with it. And then I was like, man, I know a lot of musicians. Like I know a lot. Like why not interview more people? And since I was getting published more in Post Trash this year, I was getting contacted by a lot more PR people. So I was like, well, I can't write everything, but I can produce like a audio podcast like a lot quicker. So I was like, I could still support the musicians and I could still write, but like just not everything. So I was like, so now I just kind of filter out like some people. I'm like, yes, I can write for you, or no, I don't have time, but come on the podcast, and then I can still get coverage. So it's a long story short, I guess, but that's. I didn't, it was not planned at all. It was just like, oh, I should just do this, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like it just organically happened after one interview. Like you did the interview and then you were like, damn, this is like a lot easier than writing this shit down or something like that.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, and I taught at uni for a minute, and I really like engaging in active conversations with artists. And I feel like it's really interesting and exciting for me to talk to them.
So it kind of leads me to this question. Would your process have been, before podcasting and stuff, would your interview process have been fairly similar where you get on a call with the artist and you record the whole thing, then you transcribe it and you edit it for clarity? Or were you more of a writer who's like, hey, I'm going to email you a list of questions and you write your answers?
What I've been doing mostly, but I've changed it, but I just written about 10 to 15 questions with like subset questions and follow-up questions. Um, and not send them the emails. Some people have asked beforehand. I think I sent like one or two for a regular interview, like questions beforehand. I think two people. Um, and and then it's just kind of like raw, and they come in and I just start asking them questions after I Googled the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And
You gotta do your research. One thing I'm guilty of on this show is not doing my research sometimes. I'll just go in and then I'm like, so blah blah blah, and they're like, that's wrong. And I'm like, damn, bro, my bad.
yeah, sometimes you don't have that time, you know?
It's true. But before you were doing the podcast, when you would just do like, because I imagine you do written interviews sometimes, right, for publications? Or did you mostly just do reviews?
I had never done written well, I did interviews for like school, like undergrad and like grad school, I think, but not for music, for
Got it. Got it. See,
writing
there it goes.
arts.
There's my lack of research right there. It's showing its form, its true form. Well, one thing you wrote in the spare notes kind of like blurb about what it is you wrote that you're talking to artists in the music and literary industries. So that's something I wanted to talk to you about, the crossover between music and literary industries. I think that's an interesting thing to point out, and I've never really considered it. So what have you kind of noticed between those two industries, between music and the literary industry? Any similarities in the way that they operate?
In the industries, I think that the literary industry is a bit more insular and limited by way of just the amount of people is so much less than there are in like the music industry. There's so many more people. Um, the way that people approach the art crisscrosses a lot. I've been finding a lot of similarities in how people experience approaching their art, and that's something that's like actually a very close, much more close. But the literary industry is also it's not as intertwined. It doesn't feel as intertwined to me, at least. I don't know. Yeah.
Like it's more, it's siloed maybe and harder to break into. It also probably has less demand, is what I would think. Like people aren't. There's not everyone's clamoring to be a novelist, but like everybody has a fucking guitar or makes beats or something.
Yeah, I mean, to be in the literary industry, I mean, sure, you can like write or whatever, but it's not like musicians. Like, you could be any kind of musician that's well recognized or not recognized, that not well known, like, and you could still publish your music and people will still listen to it. It'll be much more consumed even by even if you only have 2,000, 3,000 listens on your as a musician, whereas like an author, like it's like there's a lot of gatekeeping in the industry. I don't know how it operates, but what trends, and like to get published is so much more harder. It's so much more harder and takes so much more time to write a book and get it published than to like write a record.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I did want to get into publishing. So let me give your creds real quick. MFA in fiction from Syracuse, and you've also taught writing there. So I imagine you have some insight into this. What is the process like to get published in writing? Because like you said, with music, it's really easy. You record your thing and you publish it, and your self-publishing is just as good as anyone's. Like, it's pretty democratized. You could blow up, it just depends on if the stars align or whatever. How is that? It's different in writing, I'm guessing.
It's different in writing in the way that so I'm not 100% sure, but it's a little bit of a variable different ways. But like, I think one of the ideal ways is to like, okay, I finished my book. I've spent 5 years like on my book. Now I need to get an agent, and so an agent that believes in my work, and I need that agent to try to sell my book to publishers. That's one way. the agent, and I'm not so savvy on like how it all operates because there's so many variables, but like sometimes agents are editors and sometimes you have an editor with the agents. Someone might be like, Jonah, you're crazy, but I just don't know exactly how that works. But there's an agent who's like, I believe in you. Let's find you a publisher. Sometimes you can just, hey, I finished my book. I'm just going to submit to these. You could submit to a literary contest. You could submit to publishers yourself. You can send out emails yourself. A literary agent might help. It's kind of like having muscle behind your book and like a name behind your book who's like, I believe in this and we're going to make this happen. You should believe in this person because of these reasons.
It's kind of similar to music in that sense where like if you have a publicist going out and pitching you or your music or whatever, there's a little bit more credibility than like you just being like, listen to it, trust me, it's good or whatever, you know?
Yeah. But also the point of tension there also like is a time, because for someone to listen to someone's new music, it only takes, I mean, if a PR person sends me a record, I can skim like 10 songs in a minute and know if I like it or not. You know what I mean? Like for a book, like if the agent goes to a publisher, like I believe in this, like that's a lot of time to commit to read the first 50 to 100 pages to know if you would want to take someone on.
I didn't even think about that. So is there like almost like I don't know, like an abstract or like a one pager or like selects that you pull from the book and go, hey, I know you don't have time to read 250 pages. Here's a 5-page excerpt of the best chunk. Or like, is that not a thing?
I don't know if that exists, but I don't think that you need to read more than 5 pages to know what you're working with. I know a literary agent who went to Syracuse, and because the seniors, or not the seniors, the third years at Syracuse, you go to New York and you go to all these publishing companies and meet editors and whatever. And one of the people, alumni, she was like, I know, I can tell if the book has the potential I want in the first 100 pages. Like after that, like if the second half of if the second half of the book is a lot more rough, like, but I've seen the first 100 pages and I'll know what this person is capable of and where we can go.
Yeah, so a lot more time regardless than like listening to 30 seconds of a song, which also I know that sounds so annoying that I'm like, yeah, you can know a song in 30 seconds, but really you kind of can't. You get the idea of what's going on. So this is actually an interesting question that I kind of just thought of.
Sure.
With DIY musicians, right? Like we have Bandcamp as a thing where you can go upload your music, people can get it directly, whatever. But Bandcamp overall is such a like music nerd thing where, you know, music's everywhere, right? It's in every Uber, it's in every elevator, it's in every lobby. Anywhere you go, there's some sort of music on. And your average listener, your average music consumer has no idea what Bandcamp is. Even though to us, Bandcamp is like, yeah, no shit, it's like gigantic. Your average person in the world does not know what Bandcamp is. Is there an equivalent of Bandcamp in the literary world?
I don't think so. I think it's probably more word of mouth. Maybe equivalent could be like, and not everyone writes short stories and not everyone writes novels. Some people are one or the other, and some people are both. I would say no, like maybe the equivalent of kind of getting to know a writer would be short stories, though. I would say short stories, actually, because oddly enough, like more people read novels, and in the industry, it's just harder to sell a book of short stories than it is a novel. Like consumers want novels more often. If you poll your friends, more of them are going to read novels than they are short stories. But as a writer, I can produce like short bits of I can produce short stories, and they can be shorter, and I can show who I am and like what my writing is in that form, like much easier than a novel. It takes a lot longer for that to be revealed.
It makes me think of film where like, short films are really useful tools to like get a foothold and like like get someone to believe in you to give you money to make a feature. It's not people aren't out here consuming shorts, but like it's hard to make a feature. So the short is like the way to get to make a feature. How about the Bandcamp equivalent in terms of there being a marketplace that caters towards kind of DIY writers or super independent writers? Or is it all sort of fragmented in the literary industry?
I would say the equivalent DIY are literary magazines. There's tons of independent literary magazines that writers from all over the world can submit to. And some are more prestigious than others, and some people are like, I really got to get into this literary magazine because that'll mean this, and that, and then they put it on their resume or their CV. I would say that's like kind of more the DIY because, I have friends that have literary magazines, and people submit, and it can be very DIY. A lot of the bigger ones are affiliated with university or college institutions, and they have a lot more backing and money that goes into them and a name, and more mobility. But indie ones, like outside of the college institutions have to build their name a little bit more. I don't know how they build their name, but they just do their thing and whatever their theme is. And there's this. Have you heard of Submittable before?
Mm-mm.
So on Submittable, it's like one of the main places where as a writer, I'm like, oh, I wrote this short story, I wrote this flash fiction, I want to get it published, but like I didn't write like a whole book, right? So I can go to Submittable and I can browse, hundreds, if not thousands, of literary magazines, and I could submit to them like my finished piece, or so to say, finished piece, because they might be like, oh, you need to edit a little bit, and then we'll take it, or something like that. That's a pretty big one. Submittable is a pretty big one because once you get published, the more publications you have, or sadly, the more prestigious publications you have, the more weight you can pull in the literary world, as far as residencies too. Yeah.
Right. So that kind of leads nicely into this question. Is there a specific literary magazine or a few different literary magazines that come to mind that are sort of like a proving grounds, or somewhere where this magazine consistently has writers come through who are like new, talented, bright writers whose careers go places? Is there any place that's known for that?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of an equivalent to what you're asking, I would say, is like, I know if I get published in N+1, the New Yorker, the Paris Review, probably at least a half a dozen other magazines, if I get one story published in that, it'll be easily like agents will be like contacting me.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was happens, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Not all publications, but like the higher tiered one, because it is very tiered. You'll get some emails if you get published, just one piece. Like they don't even have to see. They'll be like, "Yo, what's up? What else you got on the docket?"
Right. Because it kind of has this. It gives you a notch in your belt, so to speak, and they're like, "Oh, New Yorker thinks this person's good. They must have other shit or whatever."
Yeah, and that's part of the gatekeeping, I guess, because I could have the same piece in another magazine and I won't get emails.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, because it's the same thing with music. You're gonna have there's so many incredible artists who just have shit on Bandcamp, and you're like, oh my god, like this is insane, and there's like 10 people who've ever heard it, and you're just like, oh, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot to listen to, so of course you haven't heard it.
Yep.
One last question before we go to the break. This one is about inspiration and how music ties into writing. Do you take any sort of inspiration from music for your writing? Like, do you keep music on while you write, or is it sort of like lock in and do the damn thing?
It's hard to write with most music, and especially this year, it's been difficult because most of my writing has been music related. When I write fiction for the last couple years, my one constant is I'll just put Grouper on, and I'll be able to focus on my writing. Like Grouper is it. There's not a lot of other things. I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna write. Like I'll put on Grouper, and I'll just put on her catalog or any album.
That's amazing. So Grouper is your 2025 writing mood.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I mean, she's my like probably, it'll be a few years before I don't know if I'll find out something else that's so unobstructive but also nice and calming.
I feel like next time I read a Jonah Evans piece, I'm going to put on Grouper in the background so I can really like feel where you were coming from.
Sure. And when I was part of my novel, actually, though, I was listening to Kendrick for part of it, and that was intense.
Yeah, so what is the novel? Is it out? Can we
It's
get it somewhere? Or is it in the
No,
works?
I'm on like the third draft. I'm rewriting it, changing it from first person to close third person. There's just too many like soliloquies like in first person, and there's not that many uh, human characters.
I'm excited to learn more about it. I'm not going to make you tip it here, but whenever
Okay,
it's ready, please come on the show and promote it.
I will.
Jonah, let's do this. Let's take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your mixtape. All right, we're back with the mixtape, and Jonah, you have a mixtape that I knew two of the songs off of. This is always a fun thing for me because I get to learn about a ton of new music, and
Yeah,
it's in sometimes in worlds where I don't really naturally like go to.
sure.
So you called this in your email to me the Jimmy John's mixtape. So first, before we start, why is it called the Jimmy John's mixtape?
Because all of the songs I sent to you were played on the CD player when I worked at Jimmy John's, and they were all introduced to me by one person. It was all one person who put these bands on.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Okay. So this is an homage to that person and to Jimmy John's CD player. I love it.
Yeah,
Let's start with this first one. The first one is a song called Head to Wall, and the band is Quicksand. So tell me a
yeah.
bit about Quicksand.
Quicksand is a hardcore band perform that has Walter. I don't know how to say his last name. Shifes. I don't know how to say his last name. He was in the Gorilla Biscuits, like a hardcore New York hardcore band back in the day. And Quicksand's a little bit more. It's not. It's like a little more drony, a little bit more spacey, but still has like really hard hitting space, but like aggressive, strong, powerful guitar riffs and singing.
Are they a band who you've ever seen live, or were they not like were they dissolved before you had a chance to go to live music?
I've seen them live in one of their reunions, I think, at a festival in Los Angeles, maybe in FYF Fest, Fuck Yeah Fest, like 2014, maybe. I think I saw them.
Wow, I think I was at the that same. Maybe I was at the one the year before where My Bloody Valentine played. But
Ah,
yeah, that was a cool thing that was going on for a couple of years there, and then I think the money behind it was weird. It was like the money wasn't flowing the right way or something, so it ended up getting canceled. I don't remember what happened.
yeah, they had great acts. Like, there's not a lot of festivals that I like, but I really liked FYF.
Yeah, that was a good one. Well, let's listen to a little bit of Head to Wall. Here's Head to Wall, a quick scene. Next up is Convenient Parking by Modest Mouse. So this is a classic, in my opinion. This is one that this is one of the ones that I knew. So everyone knows about Modest Mouse, but tell me a bit about kind of your history with them. How have they evolved for you? How did you first discover them and stuff like that?
So when I worked at Jimmy John's, one of the albums that my buddy put on was Lonesome Crowded West. And like a lot of the other songs on this playlist, when I listen to Lonesome Crowded West, you hear all of these guitar sounds and Isaac's vocals that are just like, you're like, what is happening? Why are things stretching? Why are they slowing down? What's with all the weird spacing? And it's an album that piques curiosity to the brain because everything is so incredibly unpredictable and fresh and unique and sincere. Um, the song in particular, I could have picked a few songs, but that one just had um, that one just stood out to me for some reason. I don't know why, but it's that I love that album. It's amazing. It'll open your eyes to what music can be.
Yeah, they're an interesting act because I know just for a fact, the first time I ever heard them was Float On when I was a kid, and
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, this band's cool. I like this groovy song, and then like I went to go listen to some of their older stuff, and I was like, this is not that. And then as
Yeah.
I got older, I was like, this is even better actually. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they've had a very interesting career, and they've got the Modest Mouse cruise coming up next year. So have you
Oh,
heard
what is
about that?
that? No, what
So
is
there's a
that?
cruise that they're doing called the Modest Mouse Cruise, and they're selling tickets for it right now. And it's basically, yeah, it's a cruise where they're going to be playing and stuff. It's called Ice Cream Floats, I think is what it is. And
Oh,
yeah, they're playing Portugal the Man. I think Kurt Vile is part of it too. And
that's got to
it's
be an interesting crew. Like, I don't imagine like a lot of people that listen to those bands go on cruises that often.
I know. I feel the same way. And I think I wrote about it very briefly in our newsletter when it was first announced. And I was like,
Hmm.
man, I like love this lineup. I don't think I'd want to be on a cruise ship for like 5 days with the crowd, though. No offense, like, because
Yeah.
I'm part of the crowd, but I'm pretty insufferable. I don't want to fucking be with me on a cruise ship for 5 days. So, it is what it is. But would you go on it? Would you go on the Modest Mouse cruise?
Uh, you know, I that's a cruise that I would go on. My aunt had talked about going on a cruise in Alaska, off the coast of Alaska, and I was like, I would do that one because it's not like you're in the beach and all this stuff. It's like you're more engaging with the nature around you, I think. I think I would 60% consider going on that cruise
Hell
if the
yeah!
price
And
is
then
right.
I was gonna say, then you see the price and you're like, nah, never mind. I
What's the
think the tickets are
price?
like $1,500 minimum or something
Oh
like that.
no. I'll fly to like a bunch of other countries.
I imagine the Modest Mouse fandom are now in their white collar era where they're driving Beamers and shit. Who the hell knows? Let's
Yeah, who
listen
knows?
to let's listen to a little bit of it. Here's "Convenient Parking" by Modest Mouse. Next up is a song called "Back and to the Left" by Texas Is the Reason. So I've heard
Mm.
the name Texas Is the Reason before, but I don't really know much about that band. Why did you pick "Back and to the Left," I guess, specifically from them?
That song, so when I first started, before I started working at Jimmy John's, my buddy, but I knew I was going to work there. I had walked in one day and he was working. I was like, hey, what's up? Like, he's like, what's up? I think the first time I went in, he was like playing Foo Fighters, The Color and the Shape. I was like, hell yeah, this record rocks. And the next time I went in, I visited, I was like getting a sub or whatever, and he was playing, and this was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He was playing, I heard this music. I was like, what is this? Like, what? I don't understand what this is. Like, what is this? He's like, oh, this is Texas is the reason. I was like, oh, cool. Like, he said, do you want to borrow the CD? I was like, sure. And I think I was 18 at the time. And he gave me the CD just to take home. And I took it home and I listened to the record like every night when I went to sleep. Like, for 1 or 2 weeks at least, I just kept putting it on and just listened to it while I fell asleep. And there's a song called "Do You Know Who You Are?" that's before it. That's no vocals, and it's this like amazing interlude, really beautiful. Um, and Back and to the Left comes on right after it, and it's just like it just rips into this like really fast paced beat, and it just feels like really alive after you're in this like solace solemn place of the song "Do You Know Who You Are" with like a really pretty guitar sound. The velocity of the song is amazing, and the singing is amazing, and the vocals like are the texture of the vocals and the melody of the vocals is really attractive to me, and the breakdowns like coming off of maybe it's the chorus, I think. On over again, maybe it's the chorus that attracts me too. Like it's this fast paced thing and it feels like urgent and lonely, but hopeful and beautiful.
Hell yeah. I mean, I personally just love the story behind it. The fact that you went into this Jimmy John's and then he let you borrow the CD. I think that's like so cool. It's like, it's just such a moment in time, you know, because I feel like it just doesn't, not to be like all like old man or whatever, but it's not kind of like that anymore. Like, I love Jimmy John's, but I don't even go into them. I just get that shit on DoorDash or whatever,
sure.
you know? So like, there's no room for those moments. Imagine though, like a DoorDash driver being like, "Here, take this CD."
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my God. So, yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore. Let's listen to a little bit of it. Here is "Back and to the Left" by Texas Is the Reason. Next up, Sunny Day Real Estate with their song 7. So tell me a bit about Sunny Day Real Estate.
Sunny Day Real Estate is a band. I actually have a Sunny Day Real Estate tattoo. It's from Diary, their album Diary. That was another band that he put on that album, and I was just like, what is this? It's this like sticky vocals and drums and guitar. It's like it feels pretty analog and it feels really raw, and I don't know all the lyrics, but I probably subconsciously hear them, and their sound is just so incredibly epic in the way that not like maybe some other ones on this album, because I don't want to overuse that word, but if I imagine like my life like passing by and like experiencing life day to day, and like what's like an emotive feeling of like existence, that's what I subscribe to, like Sunny Day Real Estate's album Diary. And I think 7 is like the perfect introduction to the band because it's a little bit more fast paced, and it's like engulfing in a way.
Yeah, so I don't know much about Sunny Day Real Estate, but they're an emo band from the mid to late 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now there is a big emo revival kind of happening over the last few years. Are they kind of back in fashion? Are people like recognizing them again, or are they one of the greats that's like never left the pantheon of emo greats?
They're absolutely one of the greats that never left the pantheon. Because of their sound, Jeremy Ensick's voice, if I said his last name right, like there's nobody that sounds like them at all. Like even with the emo revival, like you have Midwest emo and all these other emos, like a lot of those revival bands, like who I love, some of them aren't so unique from one another. Whereas if you listen to Sunny Day Real Estate, nothing sounds like what they made in a couple of their records, like at all.
Amazing. Well, let's listen to a little bit of it. Here is 7 by Sunny Day Real Estate. Next up is a song that is called Rascuache as well. How I'll say it, I don't know how you would say it because I don't know. I don't know. Seen it written, but the band is At the Drive-In. When I was doing my little tiny bit of research, I found that At the Drive-In are from El Paso, Texas, which is like a crazy place to be from. I don't think I could name a single band from El Paso, Texas. Now I can. Yeah. But tell me a bit about At the Drive-In.
This is off an EP that my buddy would play called Via. It has like a big speaker on. I've always thought about getting a tattoo of that speaker with the orange background. It's like 5 or 6 songs, and the sounds are so you're like the sounds are stranger than Modest Mouse. They're a little more electronic, weird sounds, and the vocals are not screechy, but they're disruptive and buoyant. Um, uh, but the way that At the Drive-In plays with space, especially on this particular EP, is it's confusing and it's not bright. It's dark and I don't know when I heard it. It's another one of those moments, and like the other songs, I would say like a lot of the songs I picked, I think like all these bands are doing something really unique. And At the Drive-In, I know I've read somewhere that they used to get up and practice at like 5 a.m. for a long time, like every day. And and what that did is they created something. They found their core artistry of themselves by committing themselves so hardcore. Not all of us have that much time, but like the sound that they have is incredible and very abrasive, which is nice for when you kind of want to like be angry about things or like yeah, express a lot more energy than other bands on this list.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was looking at their Wikipedia is their past members list. There is a ton of past members. So has this been a band whose lineup has changed a lot over the years, or do they just
I think
naturally have a lot of members?
uh they naturally had like I think they had one drummer um before like on their first record, I think. I could be wrong. And then they had like Tony, I think, for most of their records. And then Jim Ward wasn't really playing after they reunited with them. Like I don't know if he wasn't comfortable or something. But so then there's probably more members added on after they reunited. But like for their core part, I think maybe they had like two to four former members, like before in relationship of command, like before Via. It was like kind of like Blink 182's first drummer on Damn It. Like they had that drummer, but then they had all these other albums with like what's his name, Travis Barker. Um, there is a core to the band that made a bulk of the records. That's like 4 or 5 members that is consistent who they are. I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, it's always crazy to me when bands go through so many members. Not, and I don't mean go through in like a way where it's because different people have different things that come up. They can work on a project for a little bit and then they can't, whatever.
Yeah,
But I always think it's funny the like ship of Theseus of bands where like a band will have been around since the '70s and they like
yeah.
don't have any original members anymore, but they're still that band, and you're like, what's going on here?
That I wonder how that happens.
Yeah, let's listen to a little bit of this song by At the Drive-In called Rascuache.
Fatigue. Shivering. They make a big sound. You were slowly clearing your way out.
All right, next up, the second to last song, and my favorite one that you picked on this list is Carry the Zero by Built to Spill. So tell me a bit about what Built to Spill means to you.
I had a really hard time not putting on a song from Perfect from now on, but Carry the Zero, which is off of Keep It Like a Secret, was another one of those albums that my buddy put on when we were working at Jimmy John's that was just so bubbly, and the like guitar sound coming through, and uh, Doug Marsh's vocals were so easy on the ears, but also kind of curious. And just like listening to that album just makes me feel like floaty and comfort, and like it's filled with this oddly wonderlust. I think it's more of their wonderlusty albums actually. Like it's not like Perfect from Now On where you're kind of just like meditating on life. Keep It Like a Secret's like much more bright overall, I would say, you know?
Yeah, Keep It Like a Secret has like, it's hooky. It can get its claws in you real easy. It's not like, there's not a ton of like I mean, there still is a fair amount of like expansive guitar stuff going on, but my favorite one is There's Nothing Wrong with Love. I think like it's so quiet compared to everything else that they've done. It's like so, it's just like skin and bones, you know what I mean? It's just such a sparse like album in comparison to the rest of the discography.
Sure.
I love that one. And then, you know, they got the cello on there. Gotta love some cello. That's for me. For me, you know, it sounds so basic, but it's like instruments make up an album. If you got, like, I was thinking about this, I was listening to the Beatles the other day. I was like, damn, these motherfuckers have strings on like everything. And that's what makes it so cool. Like, nobody's really using strings anymore.
Cello always sounds amazing. I do have to ask this question of you. Have you listened to Prune, her new album?
No, I don't even know who that is. So tell me a bit about that.
Prune is an artist that came up in Northampton, kind of, but originally from Chicago area. But she uses strings really well, like amazingly on her album, where she stretches out the sounds like so far in between, like, you know, drum machine and guitars, and her amazing vocals. Her album is so, I'm just like, her album's so good. I'm like, everyone needs to hear this album.
How do you spell the name of the artist?
Prewn.
Prewn. Okay, I'm going to look
Yeah.
Prune up after this episode and give
You
that a
have
listen.
to.
But for now, let's listen to Carry the Zero by Built to Spill. And finally, your closer, the closing track, the new Nathan Detroit's by Braid. So why is this one the closer? I feel like the closer is always a big track. What's this one?
Oh my
mean to you?
God, I missed a track, I guess. A new Nathan Detroit's was like what I remember as my buddy, like, you know, after I'd worked there for a time, and like he introduced me to Braid. Um, and I remember when we'd listen to Frame and Canvas in his car, and he was a drummer, and I just remember like we'd be listening to the album, and he'd like, if he was driving, he'd start like banging on his wheel, and like that excitement like transferred over to me and like enhanced my experience of listening to Braid. But I mean, a new Nathan Detroit's like the beginning of the song is just so disgusting, because it's like there's this long beat of electric sound. It's like like I don't know even know how to describe it. And but when the drums come in, oh my God, like the drums are disgusting. The drummer was disgusting. I think they still play once in a while, but like he's just so fucking good. And like you hear the and it's just like the most exciting drumming that like enters into a song I can possibly imagine.
So you are also a drummer as well, correct?
Yeah.
So that's something that's been really interesting throughout this mixtape, is that there actually are like a lot of like big drum parts throughout it. I guess Braid has that. Modest Mouse, obviously, some of the most incredible drum parts. I think I don't listen to this band, but I have a good friend who does, and Texas is the reason, right? They're a pretty drum heavy band, I believe.
I think so, right? Yeah.
So generally, I guess, is that where you naturally go? Like when you first hear a song, like the first thing you lock in on is the drumming, or does it kind of?
The first thing I lock on is the tone. I think I consume the drums passively, but I mean, I'm sure you've seen many shows. Like a good drummer can make or break a band, and
100%.
Yeah, you don't. I don't think you necessarily need to notice them, but the drumming needs to be dynamic in some way for the band to excel to its maximum capacity.
Yeah, the drums either need to be dynamic or they need to be a locked in ass drum machine that like lets everything else do everything. You know what I mean? It's one or the other. You either have to be dynamic and have feel and move with the song, or it literally has to be just nothing, like no emotion, pure locked.
Yeah, just like blank slate kind of. But I think like even to be dynamic, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It might be like a little roll here or a little spacing there that allows the song to bloom to its full potential, which like as a drummer, I'm like, I know that there's a lot of stuff I can't drum to like give the song what it needs, you know?
Yeah, it's like serve the song. I feel like that's what every musician's kind of goal should be or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Let's listen to a little bit of it. Here's the new Nathan Detroit's by Braid. Okay, and so you just mentioned that you didn't think that was your last one. So I usually leave this area for honorable mentions. So that one that you thought was on here, let's turn it into an honorable mention. What was your honorable mention for this mixtape?
Jimmy Eat World, your new aesthetic off of their album Clarity.
I mean, Jimmy Eat World makes perfect sense on this mixtape. And it's Jimmy John's, it's Jimmy Eat World. It all makes sense. So I guess you can, give us a little bit about that song and what Jimmy Eat World means to you.
Your new aesthetic, I love the name. I mean, like, I think it's kind of about shifting a little bit. And, but the first chorus is really powerful, but the second chorus, which is kind of like the bridge, is just like escalation at its maximum of like what the song can be. And they just like literally rip into the song. And every time I listen to your new aesthetic, I just feel like incredibly alive. It's one of the lyrics is like, we're lowering the standards, process selective. It's like, I'm too slow to like think about like what it all means, but the sensation, the emotive expression of the song is like so powerful and so unforgivable and unforgettable. That album is perfect and is one of my most favorite albums ever. And also, just fun fact, who produced it? Is it Mike Trombino? Yeah, Mike Trombino, I'm pretty sure, produced that of Drive Like Jehu. And he produced also, he produced some Blink-182 records and some other stuff. And what he does with, I don't know what he does with productions, but and it's really good. It's really amazing.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to play a little bit of Jimmy Eat World into the break. And then when we come back from this break, we are going to play a very cool game. All right, for the game today, Jonah, you call Philly home, so we're doing a Philly music bracket, but we're going to keep it short. There's only 8 artists in it. It's an 8-team bracket. I was telling you before the show, Philly is such a rich musical city. We could easily go like a full 64-team tournament. Maybe next March Madness, we'll do Philly March Madness or something.
Yeah.
But not today. So let's start with a matchup here. Kurt Vile versus Circa Survive. Who moves on and why? Tell us about your thought process.
Circa Survive. Actually, Anthony Green is such a prominent figure in the Philly music scene, and I just saw one of his other bands, Animals as Friends, or I forgot the name, but 2 weeks ago, and he's such a powerful, amazing performer, and Kurt Vile, I like some Kurt Vile songs, but he's not like my vibe, you know?
Yeah, I feel you. This is totally objective, I think. I always confuse objective and subjective. This is totally subjective, actually. Yeah. Yes, this is not objective at all, as a matter of fact. This is totally subjective, so you're allowed to pick whatever you want.
Except in my mind. Oh, you are? Oh no, I'm
I'm
sorry.
heartbroken that Kurt Vile is an early out like this, but 'cause that's my
Yep.
guy. But I
Yeah.
get it. So Circus Survive moves on past Kurt Vile into the second round of the Philly music bracket. Next up, Ween versus Tierra Whack. So walk us through what you're thinking and then tell us who moves on.
I've had some discussions about um, Ween with Jamie from Audio Antihero recently, because that new Frog album reminds me of Ween quite a bit. Um, so I'll go with Ween just because I know them.
All right. All right. So there we go. Ween moving on. Next up, The Roots versus Dr. Dog.
The Roots for sure. Yeah, I love the Roots. They also bring a lot to the city. Even though I think it sounds like the last festivals, there are a lot of things that went wrong with the Roots festival, but the Roots all day. Yeah, for this matchup.
Yeah, it feels like putting the Roots in here is sort of a cheat code, and I was like, damn, are they too big to put in here? But whatever. Next up,
Yeah.
this one has two big artists as well. Boys to Men versus Hall & Oates.
I'm a Boys to Men fan. I listened to the shit out of Boys to Men 2, like when I was a kid, over and over and over. I love that record so much. I don't listen to it anymore, but it was a really, really big part of my music history when I was, like middle school or younger or whatever.
Interesting. So Hall & Oates, also a first round exit.
I was never a big fan of Hall & Oates either, to be honest. Yeah.
All right. So moving on, this is our final four, I guess. Circus Survive versus Ween.
Circus Survive.
Circus Survive. That was a quick answer. So they are more important to you than Ween.
Yeah, Ween is like a very acquired taste, and I think Circus Survive has this like I like their big emo-y weird sound.
Hell yeah. Okay. Who's going to face them in the finals? Boys to Men or The Roots?
Ooh, I'll go. Oh
This
my
one's
God,
this
is
one
hard.
seems like this one's tough for you. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, I'm thinking about the final too. I'm like, who would be the final? Well, I'm like, well, the Roots are more contemporary now, and the Boys to Men is kind of like they're not really around anymore. I think the Roots have a lot more staying power just in general.
But isn't this about what it means to you?
Is it?
I don't know. That's for you to determine.
I would go. Let's go, boys. Let's go, Boys to Men.
All right, Boys to Men advancing, The Roots knocked out. The final, Boys to Men versus Circus Survive. What a strange final, but it's the final.
Yeah.
Who do you think is taking the title here in the Philly music bracket?
I would go with. I'll go just of my recent experience and like seeing shows. I'm gonna go with Circus Survive because Anthony Green has a bunch of bands and like he's such an amazing performer and he's like really embedded in the community and I like watching him perform. It's really cool.
Amazing. So Circus Survive win the Philly music bracket. I gotta say, I did not expect this. So this is really
Neither
crazy.
did I.
They upset Kurt Vile. They upset Boys to Men. They upset Ween. They upset everybody, and they won our hearts. Circus Survive, the champions of the Philly music bracket. Jonah, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for playing these games and sharing your mixtape. Why don't you let the people know what you've got coming up or where they can find you, where they can find your work, any of that stuff?
What I got coming up? Just a lot of interviews. I'm interviewing a lot of musicians, and lately I've been getting contacted. I did one piece at Post Trash of this French garage band, Techno Police. Check that album out; it's really great. But since I did that piece for a French band, I'm getting contacted from a lot of other French places. So I've been interviewing some French musicians. One is Pain Magazine. It'll be out on the Tonearm Magazine soon. I interviewed Tommy McKenzie and Matt Duckworth from this new band called Brainwasher. It's a side band from the Flaming Lips. And
Oh, wow, cool.
So check out my Instagram, Jonah in the Snow, because it has links to my latest articles, I guess. And just check out the Tonearm because it's such a weird little magazine that likes music that steps out of the box. And my website is jonahinthesnow.com. You have links to all my articles that I've written for different magazines and the limited and the podcast as well. Yeah, that's what I got going on. Lots of interviews.
Amazing. So Jonah in the Snow on Instagram. We'll have that link in the show notes, and the Spare Notes podcast. Obviously, that is a place to go. Listeners, viewers, look, you guys know where to support us. It's at tapeclub.substack.com. You can sign up for free, which is awesome. We would love that. You can also sign up for the paid one. If you sign up for the paid one, you get these little cassettes that we make, these little compilation cassettes. And as of today, I think we are fully good on the next mixtape, the December edition. So sign up now before December, and you'll get, this next compilation tape. It's going to be a fun time. Jonah, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for doing the show. Listeners and viewers, thank you so much for listening and viewing, and I will see you next time. Peace. The J-Card podcast is a fully independent production. It is made possible by listeners and viewers just like you. So if you want to support us, tapeclub.substack.com is the place to go.